Hello, scholars. This is Ms. Edwards. Welcome to Lesson 5.3, ASA, which stands for angle, side, angle, and AAS, which stands for angle, angle, side. So we're continuing with a congruency, triangle congruency. We're just trying to figure out if two triangles are congruent to each other. And there's 5 ways to know that. We already went over side, 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 and side angle side last time. Now these are the 2 other ones. There's a 5th one that we may or may not get to, but this is going to be your 3rd and 4th way of knowing if 2 triangles are congruent. So this first one is angle, side, angle, and it just states that if 2 angles in the included side of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles in the included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So let's just kind of go over what this means. So if 2 angles and the included side, meaning the side in between those 2 angles. Okay, that says side in between those 2 angles. So 2 angles, right? And this is actually in color on my screen, not on yours. But see how this angle right here and this angle right here, right? This side in between is congruent to this angle and this angle and this side in between. So it's called angle, side, angle. So let's look at example number 1. Determine if the 2 triangles are congruent. If they are, state how you know. So we always have to mark if the side is, on itself, congruent to itself, or if there's vertical angles, right? If those vertical angles, meaning they're across from each other, right, are there, that means they are congruent. So let's draw in these vertical angles right here. Let's use 2 swoops because one is already being taken. So I have an angle, side, angle. I have an angle, side, angle, right? So I know they're congruent by ASA. Now for number 2, I see a side on itself, right, overlapping itself. So we're going to mark that as congruent. And so now I have an angle, a side, and an angle. An angle, side, and angle. So there we go. We have another angle, side, angle congruency. So now pause the video, look at number 3 and number 4, see if you can answer those before I come up with my answer. All right, so hopefully you've paused the video. So number 3 has 3 angles, right? Angle, 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 angle. So that doesn't let us know congruency. This one is not enough information. And now for number 4, right? We have an angle, a side, and an angle, a side, and angle, right? 2 angles with the side in between. If they're congruent, then the entire 2 triangles are congruent to each other. All right, so now let's look at our 4th one, which is angle, angle, side. So again, this time we have 2 angles in a non-included side, meaning, so let's write this. So if 2 angles in a non-included side, meaning a side that is not in between the 2 angles. Okay, that means that would be angle, angle, side. So on the picture, see how this is an angle right here and an angle right here. And then the side is not in between. Then on the other one, there's an angle, and the side is not in between. And it's in that same position. Like it wouldn't be this one over here, but it would be this one, both of those. That would make it angle, angle, side. So let's look at number 5. So let's actually draw in the vertical angles. So we got a vertical angle here and here. And so we have an angle, and a side that's not in between. We have an angle, and a side that's not in between. And that side, if you can tell, this triangle has been basically flipped twice, basically. So if you flip it vertically and then horizontally, this side is still the same. So it's angle, angle, side. Hopefully that makes sense. just know that if you have two angles and the side that's not in between, if that's congruent on both triangles, you have angle, angle, side. So for number 6, we also have another vertical angle to draw in. So this little box here that shows a right angle needs to also be over here as well, because if this one is right or 90 degrees, so is the other one. So we have angle, angle, and a side that's not in between. We have an angle and an angle and a side that's not in between. So that would be AAS. So go ahead and pause, try number 7 and 8, and I will be back in a second. All right, so for number 7, we have side, angle, side, which is, we actually had that last time. And then we have side, side, angle, right? So these two don't match. So that would be not enough information. It has to match on both triangles. Like one can't be side, angle, side, and the other one be angle, angle, side. That doesn't work out. They have to both be the same for it to be congruent. So now for number 8, we have vertical angles we can draw in. All right, so we have angle, angle, side. We have angle, angle, side, right? We got the two angles. The side is not in between. So that would be AAS. All right. So now we're going to go into, just like last time, the additional information required. And let me clarify something now that we have done the last lesson. It says additional information. So you have to state what's not already marked, right? They're going to give us 2 of the 3, and they just want to know what's that third piece of information we would need in order to say that this is angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle. So for number 9, so we have an angle congruent. They've already marked E and J are congruent. They've already marked that this side, right, ED and JI are congruent. So they're saying, what is the other angle here, right? Because it's already an angle on a side, so we need that second angle. Which one would have to be congruent for this to be AAS? And so it matters, right, which one. It can't be angle D and I. That would make it angle, side, angle. And it's saying what is AAS, angle, angle, side. So it has to be this angle here, angle F and angle K. So angle F has to be congruent to angle K for this to be angle, angle, side, right? Do you see that? If we have 2 angles in the side not in between on both of those are angle, angle, side. So it'd have to be angle F is congruent to angle K. So now for number 10, we have to draw in. So let's draw in our vertical angles right here. And now we have angle, side, angle, right? So they're already telling us that X and H are congruent, and that we already know that these two, right, these 2 angles that are vertical are congruent. So it's asking, what is that third piece of information? And that would have to be this side right here, right? So angle, side, angle. What is this side that has to be congruent for this to work out? So it's going to have to be this side and this side, because this side has to be in between the 2 angles. So it's going to be HW is congruent to XW. All right. So go ahead and pause. You're going to try 11, 12, 13, and 14. And again, just look at what's already given. It's going to be 2 pieces of information. And they're asking, what's the third piece? What's not marked for that congruency to work out? So go ahead and try 11 through 14. All right, so for number 11, let's mark in the vertical angles right here and right here. And so this is angle, side, angle. So it's got to be 2 angles with a side in between. So what's not marked, that would give us 2 angles with a side in between. And that would be these angles right here. Okay, so it has to be angle F, which is congruent to angle K. Were those the last letters we used? Yeah, it was. That just so happens to be the same letters. But do you see how it is F and K? It couldn't be H and I because it's ASA. The side has to be in between the 2 angles. Okay, So for number 12, now we're going to mark again. This is actually very similar, right? But this time it's angle, angle, side, right? So we have an angle, we have a side. What's the other angle? It's got to be two angles with the side not in between. So it has to be these two angles right here, L and T. Okay, it has to be L, it's congruent to T. Why? Because it's got to be two angles with the side not in between, and it's got to be something that's not marked already, that's not already a given, right? We already know the vertical angles are going to be congruent. So it's got to be, it's asking what can we mark to let us know that AAS is going to work out. And now for 13. So we have another angle, angle, side. So another two angles with the side not in between. And so this one actually could be either. So there's actually a choice here. So we're going to do, so let's say we do U. Okay. So this could be angle U or angle V. Actually, so let's not mark this. That's going to be a little confusing. But you see how it could be U or V, because as long as you have two angles with the side not in between, right? And then they would have to be congruent to, let's see, how are we going to write this? So this is actually a little of a tricky one. So actually, let's do this. Let's write, so U would have to be congruent to, and we also just have to look at the triangles. See, I'm even taking a second to think about this. Just the way they have it, it's like flipped and it's rotated. So that's why it's a little tricky. But honestly, it's okay if you have something at least a little similar to this. Honestly, there probably won't be anything like this on the quiz or test either, so don't worry. But so U would be matching up with, it looks like H. I believe that would be H. I could be wrong, because I'm just basically picturing it rotated and flipped here, but it's okay. Just don't worry too much about this one. And then, or V would be congruent to I. Yeah, or V would be congruent to I. So, yeah, just ignore that one, honestly. Don't worry about number 13. And then now for number 14, so angle, side angle. This one's a lot more straightforward. So what is two angles with a side in between, right? A side in between. So the side would have to be this side in between these two angles and this side in between these two angles. So that would be side BC is congruent to, and then again, let's make sure WV, yeah, the letters are in the right order. So when I keep saying the letters the right order, and even what I just did with number 13, it's because with these triangles, for them to be congruent, right? And they look different, even though they're the same size and same shape. They're different because they've been like flipped or, reflected or rotated, right? Or turned, or just translated, just moved around. And so, because, you're just moving the two triangles, they're still congruent, but that's why they look a little, just, a little funny. So you have to match things up in terms of that. Anyway, again, don't worry if that doesn't make any sort of sense. Don't worry. The basic thing you should know here before I log off here is that you have these two types of congruencies. Angle, side angle, right? Two angles with a side in between. And then angle, angle, side. Two angles with a side that's not in between. As long as you can recognize that, you should be good to go. If you have any questions, let me know. I will probably, if there's any tricky ones like those before, I will put that on the board and say you can skip those. But I'm pretty sure the rest of these should be okay. Just make sure you mark if it's an overlapping side or if it's a vertical angle. You'll be able to figure out the rest. And if you have any questions, please come ask me and I will help you. And yeah, I will see you in the next lesson. Bye.